Hey guys, welcome back to Gillette Stadium. I'm Kevin Dillon here with Kevin Duffy. We're here to break down what we learned from day 3 of minicamp. It's the final day. We'll give a look at what we learned throughout all 3 days of minicamp. But first things first, we'll get to the standouts from today. Kevin, who'd you think stood out today?
The usual cast of characters, I'd say. I thought Devin Lucien was actually made a few impressive plays. The second-year receiver was a 7th-round pick a year ago. Again, minicamp, you're really looking at wide receivers, running backs who catch passes, quarterbacks, defensive backs. A lot of the roster, you can't really tell much of anything. As Bill Belichick told us before practice started today, it's not real football. I mean, you can gauge a guy's athleticism. You can obviously teach them the techniques they need to learn for training camp and for the season, but it's not really fully real football. So I thought, just the usual guys. We did not have Malcolm Butler on the field today, which was an interesting development. No word yet if that's an injury-related thing or just, I don't know, it just wasn't, he wasn't there. So that's pretty much all I got from today, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty similar to the past couple days. Wide receivers all looked good. Chris Hogan continues to look really good. Brandon Cooks looks great. But, I mean, the Butler thing was certainly interesting. And just kind of a little bit of the heat today wearing down on some people. You could tell a couple guys later on in the practice were looking tired. Josh Augusta, who's an undrafted defensive tackle, was struggling doing some laps at one point. And so, overall, the heat was a bit of an issue for a couple players, but it's so early that it hardly matters. I mean, we saw some good passing from the quarterbacks. We saw Eric Rowe make a nice interception on Tom Brady. So just overall an interesting day. I guess if you were to look at some standout plays from today, I guess what were the ones you think of?
Rowe's pick, as you mentioned. I thought Lucien had a nice contested catch in the end zone, I believe, for a touchdown. D.J. Foster, the running back, had it was probably a wheel route, it was a deep route down the sideline, probably like 25, 30 yards. Made a contested grab. On the same kind of route and the same drill, Rob Gronkowski was matched up with Patrick Chung along the sidelines, and Gronk went up and high-pointed it, but Chung was able to get his hand in there and knock it away. So those, to me, stand out as the most impressive plays. Probably the most memorable moment was Matt Patricia losing his damn mind. I don't know exactly what happened. Nate Ebner picked off Garoppolo in a 7-on-7 drill, and I don't know, maybe the defense seemed to be like jogging or not really fully into it, and Matt Patricia went off on the defense. We were sitting on the far field from him, and you could hear every word he said, and I can't repeat exactly what he said. One, because NFL rules don't allow us to repeat what the coach said, but it was pretty profane. There were a lot of swear words. That was funny. A lot of the coaches say were just kind of like agitated. I feel like there was, I don't know. Patricia wasn't the only one. They were all kind of like jacked up, and I guess they did not think the Patriots were taking it seriously enough.
Yeah, I mean, it looked to us like they were doing pretty well, but I mean, it's different when you're a coach down there from seeing things from what we can see up there, and plus, I mean, like it might just be a motivation thing. You know, it's day 3 of minicamp. It's kind of a longer week than it has been for most of the off season, so coaches are really just trying to get in there and push guys. You mentioned him earlier, but one guy who does not need to be pushed is Devin Lucien. He was out there late yesterday after practice, out there late after today's practice. 2 guys that really seemed intriguing during this minicamp were him and DJ Foster. Both made a number of nice plays. Both were kind of practice squad, bottom of the roster guys last year, right, who maybe made some progress here moving into year 2.
Yeah, 2 Arizona State guys too, Foster and Lucien. 2 second-year guys who, unfortunately, even though they were impressive in minicamp, and if they continue that in training camp, it'll bode well for their NFL careers, but the problem is that they're both at loaded positions for the Patriots. Running back is pretty stacked. Burkhead, Gillisley, Dion Lewis, and James White are all locks to make their roster. In my opinion, wide receiver, you could argue that there's 5 locks to make the roster. Edelman, Cooks, Hogan, Mitchell, and Danny Amendola. So it's going to be tough sledding for both of those players. But, you know, like, the NFL careers don't end in New England. Like, if you're a young guy and you get beat out for a roster spot here, We saw last year at cutdown day, a lot of young players who were cut by the Patriots were picked up elsewhere. Dale Roberts went to the Jets. Crevon LeBlanc went to Chicago. Camus Grugier-Hill, another rookie last year, went to Chicago. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Maybe I'm forecasting a little bit too much. You'd like to try to keep those guys on the practice squad if you can, but if there's not a spot in the 53-man roster for them, everything they do in practices and everything they do in preseason games is going to go a long way in determining how their NFL career works, basically how it shakes out.
Absolutely, and you kind of think of everyone gets really excited about the undrafted guys and the late round rookies this year, do they have a chance to make the roster? But sometimes you forget about those guys who were undrafted or late round picks last year who didn't necessarily make the team, but they're still working to try to make the team the next year. And so they're two guys that could be on the roster bubble, but like you said, it'll be tough sledding for them with their positions. Just looking to some overall camp takeaways. I guess some of the things that we learned throughout all 3 days. I think probably the biggest one is that Rob Gronkowski looks healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's out there. He's doing every drill. He doesn't look like he's limited. And there's no contact, obviously, in minicamp, but he looked like he was doing everything that he could do before the injury.
Yeah, Gronk looks healthy. I think what you said is correct. The biggest takeaways you can have from this are just judging a player's health and athleticism, how they're moving on the field. Gronkowski looks healthy, and it's pretty important because he's only 6 months removed from that back surgery, third back surgery, I believe, since 2009 for Rob Gronkowski. Dion Lewis today said that he feels better than he's felt in a long time. Last offseason, Lewis obviously was recovering from ACL surgery. Then he had an additional knee surgery the following August. He was limited a little bit early this offseason because of the hamstring injury suffered in the Super Bowl. So he's had a lot in a short amount of time. So he said this is the best he's felt physically probably since he came to the Patriots that first year when he exploded onto the scene and was averaging 90 yards from scrimmage before he got hurt. So it's good, tough competition there, but I think a healthy Lewis, people will sleep on. Bill Belichick likes Rex Burkhead, but Bill Belichick is also going to play the best player at that spot, and there's a chance that best player actually is Dion Lewis. So those are two guys. Just the health of those two players jumped off to me, and Julian Edelman and Amendola participating and the level of participation and the fact that they're both healthy, that's a good sign too. I know neither came into the offseason with an injury. For the first time in a while, it always seems like those guys are kind of rehabbing from something at this point in the offseason. So they both looked good, and obviously with Edelman, the report is out today that Edelman and the Patriots are nearing a contract extension, which I would say is mildly surprising. Not because I don't think Edelman's a good player, just because he's 31 years old, and I thought the Brandon Cooks trade was kind of a setup for, okay, we're probably going to part ways with Edelman after his contract's over, and we need another playmaker. Guess I'm wrong. If they keep him around for a couple more years, he's 31, and he's had a pretty extensive injury history. That said, he probably had the best year of his career last season at age 30.
Yeah, he's entering his age 31 season. That's the year that the Patriots, that was Wes Welker's last season with the Patriots. So that could be an interesting development there. Edelman could be around for at least a couple more years. You've got Brandon Cooks in the fold. Chris Hogan looks like he's catching everything. We got a question there. Do you guys think that the Patriots should try to sign Jeremy Maclin? That just wouldn't make any sense. They have a logjam at receiver anyway. You've got Edelman, Hogan, and Cook's likely to start. You've got Malcolm Mitchell, who is lower on the depth chart, who didn't practice during minicamp, but he showed some stuff last year. Danny Amendola could be your fifth receiver, and he's a guy that Tom Brady trusts. You've got Andrew Hawkins already in camp, who might not make the team. Mm-hmm. We just talked about Devin Lucien as a guy who really impressed. Jeremy Maclin is obviously really talented, but they're going to have to pay money for him. It looks like he has a contract issue there when he's trying to sign with the Bills, and it just doesn't make sense for the Patriots to go out and try to sign him. Yeah,
every veteran, it seems, they're always, someone gets cut, and if you read Adam Schefter's Twitter replies, which I do for whatever reason,
they're funny.
The Patriots, they can't sign every player. They have a great group of receivers. I don't think they need Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah, and just moving forward, we talked a little bit about the running back depth. You looked at the receiving drills, and you don't necessarily see Mike Gillislee a lot in those. He's looks like he could be in line for that LeGarrette Blount role.
Yeah, Bill Belichick was asked about LaShawn Daniels, the 225, 230-pound undrafted rookie running back that they have in camp. And he basically said that this camp is a passing camp. It's not geared toward what LaShawn Daniels is good at. It's on his skill set. That can be applied to Mike Gillislee too. So really working with Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo for the majority of minicamp, the running backs were Dion Lewis, James White, and Rex Burkhead. Mike Gillislee was with DJ Foster and Bolden, I think, working with Jacoby Brissett. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that Mike Gillislee is a third-string player. It just means that this is a passing camp. What you're working on is really your passing offense. There's no pads. You're not running the ball. So if Gillislee he's not a receiver. He's really not an accomplished receiver at all. That's just not the kind of player he is. They have three guys in Burkhead, Lewis, and White who are good receivers, so you want to maximize their reps with Brady and Garoppolo. And then when you get into training camp and you start hitting and you start actually using running plays, then I think we'll see Mike Gillislee play with the first team a lot more. Yeah. I would still expect him to lead the team in carries, for the record.
Me too. I mean, but you see, like James White, he had a great day today. I mean, you see Burkhead had a great day yesterday. We just talked about Dion Lewis. I mean, there's so many guys that can catch the ball. Gillislee looks like he has his defined role, and that'll be a fun thing to keep an eye on as the season goes, because he's not like Blunt. It looked like he sort of can catch the ball, but they're just not going to use him that way. Like if they had to, they could maybe use Gillislee, but why do it when you have so many other guys?
The other guys are obviously better at that than he is. He's probably I think he's a little quicker than Blunt, so he might be better at it than Blunt, because Blunt was basically a non-factor in the passing game. Like, they didn't throw to LeGarrette Blunt at all unless it was just a dump off because nothing else was open downfield, and that only happened probably a handful of times each season. So yeah, I would expect Gillislee to fill a similar role.
Yeah, and then just defensively, I mean, again, we can't really tell much, but I mean, the secondary looked strong. Gilmore continues to look good. Rowe looked good, and I mean, we saw a lot of the rookies were working on the rookie side of practice there. Harvey Lange was playing kind of off the edge a little bit, but overall, I mean, you can't really tell too much from practice. Was there anyone else that stood out to you on defense, or?
I think Gilmore's athleticism stands out. There was one play where they ran basically a go to Brandon Cooks, and Gilmore was matched up with Cooks on the outside, and they were running stride for stride. And I think anybody who can run stride for stride with Brandon Cooks it's an elite level athlete. So Gilmore, you watch him and you watch his not only his athleticism but just his ball skills. He's always got a knack for just knocking the ball away at the last second. This is what I talked about yesterday too. Like there were several examples in minicamp where he's in perfect position, but the play essentially comes down to, can you get your hand in there in the final 0.5 seconds of the play, despite everything you did in the previous 4 seconds, and disrupt the pass. And I saw him do that several times against Chris Hogan in minicamp this week. I feel like he was matched up with Chris Hogan a lot for some reason. I don't know. I just felt like it worked out that way.
Yeah. I mean, two former Bills maybe just going at it. Right. But, I mean, Chris Hogan, I thought, he was catching everything that went toward him. I mean, sometimes his feet might have been out of bounds. It looked like he was pretty upset after a couple of those catches because he might have been called out of bounds. But he was all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, I think that should pretty much wrap it up. One last thing I was going to talk about, quarterback play.
Okay. Yep.
Tom Brady, I mean, he still looks good. I mean, like, you wonder if maybe he's lost a step, but obviously, I mean, it looks like he was throwing the ball really well today. Just as good as Jimmy Garoppolo, probably better. Yeah,
Brady really received significantly more reps than Garoppolo did today, which is kind of a departure from what they were doing in the first 2 days. In the first 2 days, when they went 11 on 11, 7 on 7, Brady and Garoppolo were basically just flip-flopping. They were basically subbing in, subbing out. And they were mixing and matching personnel all over the place. So I would say they almost split it 50-50. Today, Brady received a lot more reps in the 11 on 11 drills. One thing with quarterback play I want to point out, Jacoby Brissett received a ton of reps throughout the whole camp because on one field, you have Brady and Garoppolo working with the first team, and they're alternating. On the other field, you have Brissett working by himself with all the backups. I thought that, I was paying more attention to Brady and Garoppolo, but I thought that the sheer number of reps that Brissett received, that's what he needs, man. Like, he's entering his second season. That's how you get better. And I think that the Patriots want to try to maximize his repetitions in not only minicamp but in training camp to see what they have in him, because when you're making a decision at quarterback in the future, what you have in Jacoby Brissett is going to be a factor in what they ultimately do with Brady and Garoppolo.
Right, and obviously the Garoppolo and Brady are working with the ones, but I mean, reps with Austin Carr and Cody Hollister, those are going to help him moving forward just because he'll get more reps in the offense and more chances to go up against an actual defense, and so I think that'll be helpful for him.
Yeah, any reps will help him. Last year, because the Patriots were in such a unique circumstance, they really divvied it between mostly Garoppolo and Brady. Brissett, I remember in training camp, there were a lot of times when he was just standing around on the side, not participating, because they needed to get Garoppolo ready for being the starter in weeks 1 through 4, and then Brady's your starter the rest of the year, so you want to get him as many reps as possible. So Brissett was almost the odd man out. Now he's not working extensively right now with like Edelman and Brandon Cooks, but he's just getting the volume that he needs to become a better quarterback.
Awesome. All right, well, I think that should wrap it up here from minicamp. It was a good 3 days. It went from really cold to really hot in a matter of just, 72 hours. So, but thanks, everyone, for watching. Be sure to check back at masslive.com/Patriots for all of our coverage. We'll have plenty of it, and we'll be back with you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.